St Andrew's Day is most often associated with Scotland, although St Andrew himself is also the patron saint of several other countries as well, including Barbados, Cyprus, Romania, Russia and Ukraine. St Andrew has been celebrated in Scotland for over 1,000 years, with feasts being held in his honour as far back as 1000 AD. Speaking about feasts, later we're going to meet up with Chef William Gill from the Auld Alliance Restaurant in Kirkcudbright, who is going to prepare a contemporary Scottish dish you can make at home, whisky haggis parcels. Every November 30th, Scotland's national flag, the saltire or St Andrew's Cross, makes something of a rare appearance on many of Scotland's town halls when it displaces the Union Jack for just 24 hours to celebrate our patron saint on Scotland's National Day. The flag itself originates from 832 AD. Legend has it that the army of Angus MacFergus, High King of Alba, was being pursued by a larger force of Angles and Saxons led by Athelstan when the Scots stood to face the enemy near East Linton in present-day East Lothian. Fearing the encounter might not go their way, King Angus led prayers for deliverance and was rewarded by seeing a cloud formation of a white saltire, the diagonal cross on which St Andrew had been martyred, against a blue sky. The king vowed that if, with the saint's help, he gained victory in the ensuing battle, then Andrew would thereafter be the patron saint of Scotland, and the rest, as they say, is history. But Andrew himself was not Scottish. Incredibly, with a name like Andrew, he was a Galilean fisherman who was singled out to be Christ's first disciple, and who preached the gospel in the lands around the Black Sea, and in Greece, where he was eventually crucified on an X-shaped cross in Patras, some 215 kilometres west of Athens, around 60 to 70 AD. Hard facts about St Andrew are a little thin on the ground due to the passage of time, but a 4th century account reports that he was bound to the cross, rather than nailed to it, and that he had chosen the X-shaped cross or saltire, as he deemed himself unworthy to be crucified on the same upright type of cross as Jesus had been. November 30th is said to be the date St Andrew met his death, although this is unclear. What is clear is that the tradition of St Andrew's Day came about, not in Scotland, but in Charleston, South Carolina, USA. A group of American-based Scots wanted to pay homage to their homeland, and met on November 30th, 1729, to discuss starting the tradition of St Andrew's Day celebrations, although the day only became a public holiday in Scotland in 2007. However St Andrew's Day came about, it should be given more importance throughout Scotland, believes retired solicitor Graham McCormick, who has more than a passing interest in the history of Scotland's patron saint. We met up with Graham at the 18th century, Category A, listed former church St Andrew's on the Square in Glasgow, which is now a centre for Scottish culture promoting Scottish music, song and dance.
Wouldn't it be great if we as a country celebrated St Andrew's Day a bit like the Irish? We might not be able to do it outdoors because of the weather, but we could certainly do it indoors. We could encourage particularly our burgeoning music scene, traditional music scene, and that would be one aspect of it. And the other thing, of course, is in schools. Schools now have burn suppers and things like that. They could celebrate, I'm quite sure, St Andrew's Night and St Andrew's Day, and so that it would build over a period of a few years into something really special. And given that we are a northern climate and people suffer from depression because of the dark nights and the dark days, what a wonderful thing it would be to bring some light into people's lives to be part of this. It could be done by streets, by communities, etc. And it really is something which local government and central government should actually encourage in a big way, so that it fosters that idea that there is something bright to look forward to for the rest of the year and the year to follow.
So when did Graham's interest in Scotland's patron saint begin?
I was first introduced to St Andrews as a 6-year-old boy when I joined Paisley Abbey Choir as a boy chorister, and I remained in the choir, man and boy, for 25 years. St Andrew's Tide was the start of Advent in the run-up to Christmas, which is an incredibly exciting time for most people, but particularly in the choral tradition, because you have carols to rehearse, they have Christmas music, and although the Abbey was a Presbyterian church and remains a Presbyterian church, we embraced the music of the Catholic tradition and also the Episcopalian tradition.
Graham admits to being a little disappointed that the Scottish Government hasn't encouraged the celebration of St Andrew's Day to a far greater extent than this special date in Scotland's calendar should be.
I think one of the regrets I have that since the SNP came to power in 2007, that it didn't encourage more people to think, let's move Guy Fawkes Night to St Andrew's Night and celebrate St Andrew's Night as a community venture. Given that Guy Fawkes has very little connection with Scottish history really, whereas St Andrew's Night is our national day.
An interesting fact about Scotland's patron saint is that St Andrew never set foot in Scotland, but he remains a symbol of Scotland throughout the world. But there are many conflicting legends surrounding him, perhaps the best known of which is the story of St Rule. 300 years after Andrew's martyrdom, the Roman Emperor Constantine, himself a Christian, ordered that the saint's bones should be moved from Patras to his new capital city of Constantinople, known today as Istanbul in Turkey. But, before the order was carried out, a monk by the name of St Rule had a dream in which an angel told him to take what bones of Andrew's he could to the ends of the earth for safekeeping. St Rule duly took what he could after raiding Andrew's tomb, set sail before becoming shipwrecked off the east coast of Scotland, more or less where the Fife town of St Andrews is today. Indeed, St Rule's Tower still stands among the ruins of St Andrew's Cathedral, which in its heyday was a great centre of medieval pilgrimage. But the whereabouts of the bones is unknown. They were probably destroyed in the Scottish Reformation. However, St Andrew has struck a chord with the Scots for thousands of years, and anyone who has ever visited Scotland can vouch that his spirit is still alive here today. That's because Scotland is known around the world for its incredibly warm welcome and friendliness, just one of the many reasons that visitors to this amazing country keep coming back. Today, St Andrew's Day is marked by Caledonian and St Andrews societies around the world with events of music, dance, food and culture. So with this in mind, Chef Will Gill of Kirkcudbright's Auld Alliance Restaurant is going to show us how to make whisky haggis parcels and tell us a little about the restaurant and its inspiration.
Welcome to the Auld Alliance in Kirkcudbright. We've been here for, the restaurant itself in its physicality has been here for a very long time and has changed hands in many different ways. But I currently took over the restaurant about 10 years ago. So I came up with the idea of the Auld Alliance originally because many years ago a good family friend of ours used to have a restaurant in town called the Auld Alliance. They sold on and moved away, so when the opportunity arose I approached them to see about relaunching the name. And the significance of the name basically is the Auld Alliance dates back to Jacobite days, where it is what's known between the Scottish and the French and the Jacobites to basically install our own Queen and King onto the throne. So it was the French and the Scottish against the English. So wanting to do a restaurant and incorporate where the name comes from, I obviously wanted to keep traditional Scottish cuisine, but put a bit of a French twist on it so that I could vary the dishes and use different provinces within France, different areas within Scotland itself, and a little bit cheekily now and then maybe branch out into some of the distant far corners of the world that used to be provinces of France or colonial owned France, sort of like Indochina. My biggest influence probably would be North Africa and Morocco. Again, it used to be a French colony, so therefore maybe stretching it a little bit, but I can still use it as part of the brand, which is the Auld Alliance, which is continuously growing and changing ever so slightly.
Will uses Scottish produce, sourced locally from within Dumfries and Galloway.
All of my produce comes from within 30 miles of the restaurant, so everything is fresh, everything's local. All the meat from my butcher, my fish comes from Carshluth, and the little man is fantastic who goes out his boat and catches things which I require. And obviously being a fishing harbour, whatever the boys come in with when they land, they'll give the door a chap and say, well, we got this or that, would you like to use it? So that's the ethos of the restaurant, to try and make it local, small, and professional. So today we're going to do, to celebrate St Andrew's Day, we're going to do a local haggis, black pudding, wrapped in some phyllo pastry, with a nice red onion confit and a local whole grain mustard and whiskey sauce. So first of all, we start off with just slicing the haggis. So we just take the end piece off. Don't throw it away, it can be used for other things. So we just want a nice good slice of the haggis, as so. So that's that one done, and then we'll move on to the black pudding. Again, thin slice off the end, keep it because you can use it for other things, and then a nice slightly thicker slice of your black pudding. Pop it to one side. So obviously they both all come with your paper on. You want to be taking this off. It's not the nicest thing to eat. And then we'll just pop that in the bin, get rid of that. So next, I'm just going to do the phyllo pastry. But just before I start that, a little bit of butter, pop it into the magic microwave. Just want to melt it down slightly, just helps the phyllo pastry bind and will give it a lovely colour. So, what we want to do is slowly unravel your phyllo. Very, very fragile, and you don't want to be ripping it too much. So that's unraveled. So now what we want to do is we want to get some individual sheets. So we'll take one sheet as so. And then what I want to do is I'm going to put some butter onto that, which will help it bind with another sheet of phyllo pastry. Okay. And then obviously once we start putting it together, we want to put it together at different angles because we are going to be creating a parcel. So that's one sheet, and then I'll get the next sheet. I'll place that on, like so. Now, you don't need too much phyllo pastry, so I will just go with 2 sheets. This I will pop back in the fridge. So, there we go. So again, just a nice little bit of butter on the inside. And we want to go around the edges on both sheets. Right. There we go. Okay, so what we want to do now is if we quarter your haggis and your black pudding. And what we're going to do now is we're going to put your haggis as so, then your black pudding as so. So what I've got here is a nice red onion confit. So I made this earlier today. Basically, it is just sliced red onions, and then you're putting them into a pan with an equal quantity of blackcurrant cordial, red wine vinegar, sugar, and a couple of star anise just for a slight difference in flavour and take away from the sweetness. So we're going to place that into the middle there. Then we'll take the rest of our haggis and black pudding and we'll pop it on the opposite way. As so. So now we're basically just going to start and create and pull and fold. So take your corners and come up. Take your other corners. Don't worry about perfection. The whole idea with phyllo is that it has a rustic look. Tiny little twist at the top. So you're kind of creating a sort of a money bag shape. As so. So leave that there for now because we don't want to be moving it around too much. So then we need to get a tray. And what we need now is some baking parchment. I prefer to use the baking parchment than the greaseproof. I find it is a lot easier to control and there is never a sticking issue when it comes to using the parchment. So, that's onto your tray. Now we just need to lift and place it on. There we go. So, nice and simple. And then what we need to do is we then need to put some more butter on. And at this stage, be as liberal as you please. So obviously I've got my oven set, it's preheated, 180, gas mark 6, because you want it nice and hot. There we go. So there is your phyllo parcel with your haggis, your black pudding, which are all locally made in Castle Douglas for me by Ballard's Butchers, and then my local red onions with confit. So it's just basically sweated down with blackcurrant cordial, red wine vinegar, sugar, and a little bit of star anise to add a slight bit of flavour. So what I'll do now is I'll pop this into the oven. And we want it just at the top. And I'm going to bake that roughly for about 15 minutes. So, as the phyllo is baking in the oven, I've made a little bit of sauce. It's very simple. Sounds complicated with the whiskey and the whole grain mustard, but it's not. So we've just got sweated off a nice shallot, added in a nice splash of white wine and reduced that down. Then we've just added in our chicken stock, a little bit of milk, and some double cream with the whole grain mustard. And we just bring that together. Obviously I've made this earlier, so I'm warming through now. And then, because it's a whiskey sauce, some people say you should burn the alcohol off. But I find that once I've made the sauce, I will then add a little bit of whiskey at the end, because I think you should have the flavour there, but obviously test as you go. Don't bang half a bottle in, because basically you're just going to have a whiskey with cream, not a sauce. So I just make the sauce and then I'll just add a little shot at a time and try it, because I want you to have the flavour there, especially because I like to use a smoky whiskey, so it just adds another depth of flavour to the actual meal itself. So again, as I said, it's just warming so slightly. It'll be a couple of minutes till it comes to temperature, and then hopefully, in a perfect world, the phyllo will be ready at the same time. Right. we go. Absolutely perfect. Obviously everything's very hot, so you have to be careful. One. Move this just out the way for the moment. Here's the sauce. So as you can see, beautiful consistency, nice colour, plenty of whole grain mustard. And then it's just a nice ladle onto the plate. And remember, it's not school dinners, so you're going around your presentation, not over your presentation. Okay, so there we go. And listen to that lovely crunch. Open her out. As you can see, lovely haggis, black pudding, sweetness of your onion confit, and then it's broken down with a lovely creaminess of the sauce. Haggis is an amazing food because every haggis is different. So every butcher's recipe varies ever so slightly. So once you find one that you like, stick with it, because every other one that you have after that will taste ever so slightly different. Because you find the recipe's been handed down over years and it's made fresh. Obviously you can go into the butcher's and buy it just as a slice. You can buy it smoked if you wanted to. Or, as you've seen me cutting earlier, I'll just buy it as a long one so I can then portion it down and serve it individually.
Thanks, Will. That looks absolutely delicious. If you've never tried haggis, what better occasion than on St Andrew's Day with a wee dram? Slarnjervar. If you've enjoyed this film about Scotland's National Day, then please like, share and subscribe to the Scotland channel on YouTube. And don't forget to hit that notification bell to be informed about new content from the Scotland channel. You can also find details about up and coming films on the channel by visiting our website, thescotlandchannel.tv.